I needed the money. That's the honest truth. No other reason I would have taken that job. It was a Tuesday in April when my friend Danielle sent me the listing. A family in the older part of town needed a babysitter for one evening. $15 an hour, 2 kids, a few hours tops. I remember staring at the message for a long time before I replied. Something in me hesitated, and I don't know why. I had babysat dozens of times before. I was 22 years old. I was perfectly capable of spending an evening with 2 children in a house that wasn't mine. But something made me pause. I said yes anyway. The Hargrove family lived at the end of Alderman Street. I drove there just after 6 in the evening, when the sky was doing that thing it does in spring, that heavy, bruised purple that can't decide if it's sunset or storm. The house was Victorian. 3 stories, dark brick, ivy climbing one side like it was slowly being consumed. The garden was overgrown in that specific way that suggests someone used to tend it once and then simply stopped caring. I sat in my car for a moment before going in. It's just a house, I told myself. Old houses look like this. It doesn't mean anything. Mrs. Hargrove opened the door before I even knocked. She was already in her coat, already holding her clutch. Her husband was idling the car in the driveway, the headlights cutting pale yellow lines across the front steps. She spoke quickly, precisely, like a woman who had rehearsed this and wanted it over with. Emma is 6, Caleb is 8. They've already had their dinner, but Emma barely touched her pasta, so there's more in the fridge if she's hungry again. Bedtime is 8:30. 8:30 sharp, please, not 9, not 8:45. Caleb knows where his retainer is. Make sure he puts it in. Emma needs her nightlight on. The plug-in one, not the lamp. She pressed a folded piece of paper into my hand. Emergency numbers, their mobiles, a neighbor, a doctor. And then she paused. She had been moving the whole time, adjusting her coat, checking her bag, looking past me at her husband. But in that moment, she went completely still. She looked me directly in the eyes. "One more thing," she said. "The sitting room, at the end of the hallway on the left. Just don't spend too much time in there tonight, if you can help it." I almost laughed. Almost. I thought she meant don't snoop through their things. Don't sit in the good chair. Don't put your feet on the furniture. I smiled and told her, of course. She held my gaze for just a half-second longer than felt normal. Then she turned and walked to the car without another word. I watched them pull out of the driveway and disappear down the street. I stood alone in the doorway of that old house, listening to the engine fade. And then there was nothing. Just the wind, just the ivy, just me. I went inside. The children were exactly as described. Caleb was 8 going on 40. He barely acknowledged me when I came upstairs, already absorbed in whatever game he was playing on his tablet, headphones around his neck. I told him I'd be back to check on him at 8:30, and he said, sure, the way only a child completely unbothered by a stranger in his house can say it. Emma was different. She was small for her age, with dark eyes that watched me carefully from the moment I walked into her room, as though she was deciding something about me. She ate off a bowl of reheated pasta at the kitchen table, pushed the rest around, asked me 4 questions in a row. Did I have a cat? What was my favorite color? Did I believe in ghosts? And could she have dessert? I told her no cat, green, no, and yes to dessert, a small scoop of ice cream that she finished in approximately 45 seconds. By 8:15, they were both in their rooms. By 8:30, after 2 stories and 3 glasses of water and 1 very prolonged negotiation about the nightlight, Emma's eyes were finally closing. I stood in her doorway for a moment, watching her breathe. The nightlight cast a soft amber glow across her ceiling. The stuffed rabbit tucked under her arm. Normal, safe, ordinary. I checked on Caleb, already asleep, tablet still in his hand. I gently pried it away and set it on his nightstand. He didn't stir. I stood in the hallway. Old houses have a sound when they settle at night, a language of creaks and shifts and sighs, like the structure itself is breathing out after holding its shape all day. I told myself that was all I was hearing. I went downstairs. I should have stayed in the kitchen. I should have sat at the kitchen table with my phone and my tea and minded my own business for the next 3 hours. But the sitting room door was open, just slightly, and I could see from the hallway that there was a lamp on inside. A low amber light that made the room look almost warm, almost inviting. I told myself I'd just look in, just see what the fuss was about. The room was Victorian in the truest sense. Heavy velvet curtains in a deep burgundy, drawn shut against the evening. Dark wood furniture, a settee, an armchair, a writing desk along one wall. A fireplace that hadn't been used in years. The grate full of old ash and a single dried flower someone had placed there and never removed. The walls were covered in framed photographs, sepia portraits, formal, unsmiling faces staring out from another century. The kind of photographs that feel like they're watching you even when you're not looking at them. And in the corner, between the fireplace and the far curtain, sitting in a small wooden chair as though it had always been there and always would be, a clown. I stopped in the doorway. It was life-sized, porcelain, dressed in a faded costume, white and yellow with oversized buttons down the front, a ruffled collar gone gray with age. Its hands rested on its knees. Its head was tilted slightly to the right, as though listening to something just beyond the edge of hearing. And it was smiling. Not a warm smile, not a performer's grin, something fixed, permanent. The smile of something that had never learned what smiling was actually for. I stood there for a long moment. It's an antique, I told myself, probably worth a lot of money. Rich people collect strange things. This is nothing. I walked to the settee on the opposite side of the room, sat down with my back to the wall and opened Netflix on my phone. I did not look at the clown again. I told myself that was a choice, that it was fine. I looked at it constantly. 20 minutes passed, maybe 30. I was halfway through an episode of something I have no memory of now because I was not really watching it. I was listening. That's the thing about fear. It changes how you hear a room. Every sound becomes a question. Every creak becomes a sentence you're not sure you want to finish. And then, I heard it. A single, slow creak. Not the house, not a pipe, not the wind catching something loose outside. A creak with weight behind it. Deliberate, close. I looked up from my phone. The clown was in the same position. Same chair, same smile, same tilt of the head, but the hands were different. One hand, the left, was no longer resting on its knee. It was now resting on the arm of the chair, fingers curled loosely over the edge. I went very still. My brain did what brains do in moments like that. It searched rapidly for the most rational explanation. I didn't look closely enough when I came in. I assumed the position. I was distracted. I stood up, crossed the room, examined it. Porcelain, cold to the eye, painted, still, not mechanical, no joints I could see, no motor, no string, nothing. I went back to the settee. I lasted 4 minutes. The cold came without warning. One moment the room was fine, slightly stuffy even, the way closed rooms in old houses can feel. And the next, the temperature dropped so sharply that I gasped. My breath fogged in front of me. Visible. White. In April. I stood up immediately. Checked the window. Latched shut. Checked the vent near the skirting board. Cold. Off. Dry. There was no source. And then the smell arrived. Faint at first. Almost imperceptible. Something earthy. Damp. Like a basement that hasn't been opened in years. Like the smell of something forgotten in the dark. I picked up my phone to text my friend. Just to write the words out loud, even if only to myself. There's something weird in this house. Call me if you don't hear from me. No signal. I had 4 bars when I pulled into the driveway. I moved to different corners of the room. Nothing. I walked into the hallway. 1 bar. Back into the sitting room. Nothing. I stood very still in the center of that room, phone in hand, and made myself look at the clown. Its head was no longer tilted right. It was tilted left, towards me. The smile had not changed, but the eyes. I know this sounds impossible. I know exactly how this sounds. The eyes seemed darker than before, deeper. Less painted, less like glass, more like something behind glass, looking out. I made a decision. I don't know if it was courage or desperation. I think at a certain point they feel exactly the same. I crossed the room in 4 steps. I reached out with both hands, and I grabbed the clown by the shoulders. The cold hit me like a wall. Not just cool, cold deep and biting, the kind that gets into your bones instantly, the kind you feel in your teeth. My fingers went numb in seconds. I tightened my grip. It was lighter than I expected, disturbingly light, like it was hollow, like there was nothing inside. I carried it out of the sitting room without looking at its face, down the hallway, past the foot of the stairs, to the coat closet near the front door. I opened the door, placed it inside, facing the back wall, away from me. I closed the door. I stood there with my hand pressed flat against the wood and listened. Nothing. No creak, no sound, no cold. Just my own breathing, ragged and loud in the silence of the hallway. I stood there for a long time before I let go of the handle. I went back to the sitting room. I stood in the doorway and looked at the empty corner. The small wooden chair sat alone now, and somehow that was almost worse for a moment. The perfect outline of where it had been, the slight indentation in the old carpet. I sat on the settee. I breathed, and slowly, the room felt like a room again. The temperature was normal. The smell was gone. My phone signal returned, 3 bars, then 4. I laughed. That specific, broken laugh you only produce when every muscle in your body releases at once. I sat there in a Victorian sitting room, laughing quietly at myself. You were scared of a doll, I thought. You carried a doll to a cupboard like it was going to save your life. I checked on the children, both deeply asleep. Caleb hadn't moved. Emma's rabbit was still tucked under her arm, the amber nightlight steady and warm. I went to the kitchen and made tea. Proper tea. I sat at the table with both hands wrapped around the mug and watched the steam rise and told myself it was over. That whatever strange trick of the mind or the cold or the old house had unsettled me, it was done. By 11, I was watching something on my phone with the volume up, legs tucked under me, feeling almost normal. The kind of normal that's earned, hard-won. I convinced myself the rest of the night would be easy. The Hargroves arrived home just after midnight. Mrs. Hargrove came through the door first. She looked at me, really looked at me. The way people do when they already know something is wrong and they're measuring how wrong. Her husband quietly locked the front door behind them. I told them everything. I was embarrassed and I told them everything anyway. The hands, the head turning, the cold, the smell, the lost signal, the closet. I watched her face as I spoke and it did not change expression even once. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "We don't own a clown." The words didn't make sense at first. I actually smiled, thinking I'd misheard her. "We've never owned a clown," she said again, quieter. "We've never owned anything like that. That's why I told you to stay out of that room. Because sometimes things appear in there, and we have never been able to explain it. And we've learned it's better not to engage with it." Her husband put his hand on her arm, said nothing. I looked at the coat closet. The police came the next morning, not because anyone called them urgently, but because we all agreed, in the strange calm of that kitchen at midnight, that it needed to be documented. That someone official needed to see it. The officer opened the closet door. He looked inside for a long time without speaking. Then he stepped back and he looked at me, and he looked at Mrs. Hargrove. The closet was empty. No clown, no chair, no trace of it ever having been there. Just coats, just boots, just the ordinary contents of an ordinary front hallway cupboard. I drove home in silence with every light in my car on. I've thought about that night more times than I can count. I've turned it over and examined it from every angle. I've tried to give it a rational shape, but I keep coming back to one thing. One detail I haven't been able to explain away no matter how hard I try. When I carried that clown down the hallway, when I had both hands on its shoulders and its face turned away from mine, I felt something. Faint, barely there, but unmistakable. The slow, steady rise and fall of something breathing. Subscribe. Not because there are more stories, but because some of them haven't finished happening yet.